Let's go to Paris now. Marwan Bishara is standing by for us there, Al Jazeera senior political analyst. And Marwan, what do you make of this move by the UK government to potentially recognise the Palestinian state in September, apart from certain qualifications that they put forward? Is it likely to move the dial in any way?
Well, look, I've just listened to your interview with the British parliamentarian, and I tell you, I benefited more from your questions than from her answers. For the simple fact that too many people are speaking too much politics, while we are living in an era of genocide. So let me give you two lines of thinking about this. The more important one in this time for me is the moral one. The moral argument is Keir Starmer and President Macron and President Trump are in no position to talk about peace and justice when they are complicit in genocide. We need to hear some apology. We need to hear some retraction. We need to see some measures being taken other than just lofty rhetoric, because they are in no position to be talking about peace and justice when they are today, as we speak, accomplice in genocide. That's one. Politically speaking, we need to know what exactly are they talking about, and as per your question to the parliamentarian, why the conditionality? Because these two issues, Israel stopping the genocide and the starvation and recognition of a Palestinian state, these are mutually reinforcing statements, not mutually exclusive statements, meaning one should be gone with the other, not one if the other doesn't go along. So if Netanyahu pretends, as he's been pretending the past several weeks, that everything is going to be okay and we will do more and so on and so forth, and then suddenly there is no recognition of a Palestinian state, why? The Palestinians are not worthy of a state? Why, after 2 years of genocide, they don't deserve security and justice and safety and well-being and sovereignty and independence and so on and so forth? Why not? Third, politically speaking, is recognizing what state. Is it state in 10% of the West Bank, or is it a state on all territories occupied in 1967, including East Jerusalem, the West Bank, and Gaza, as contiguous sovereign territories, as has been the understanding, the principle, since 242 was adopted in 1967. That's more than 50 years ago, by the way. Because the difference is huge. The Israelis could accept eventually, I don't know, 2 decades down the road, a state in half of the West Bank, but it's actually half a state. Third, what will you do with the 700,000 illegal settlers living in the occupied West Bank and occupied East Jerusalem? Because Israel is not going to withdraw them because Mr. Starmer asked for it or because Mr. Macron asked for it. They're going to insist, if ever at all, for Israel to continue to have its own rule over its own citizens in the West Bank. That, by definition, is not a state. It's apartheid. That is apartheid by definition. So when they talk about recognition of a Palestinian state, they have to be far more precise about what they're talking about.
Okay.
And fifth and last, what about the refugees? There are 3-4 million refugees today. What about them?
Of course, for any movement to take place, you need the backing of the United States. And Donald Trump has already come out and said, well, hey, this has nothing to do with me. We didn't talk about any of this when we met with Keir Starmer in Scotland. So he's backing away from it completely. And Emily Thornberry, the politician that I spoke to that you're talking about, she said that for it to progress, you need to have Donald Trump's backing.
That's why I said I benefited more from your questions than from the answers, because this is it. Look, in the end of the day, the whole point of recognition is it has to go to the UN Security Council, and then if there is no veto by the United States and all 5, permanent members accept, then Palestine will become a full-fledged member of the international community. But as long as there's an American veto, all these steps by the French and the British are just symbolic, and not just symbolic, Nick. they are a deflection from the ongoing genocide in Palestine. You and I spoke to yesterday, and I said the solution for starvation is not give them a state a la Marie Antoinette, the peasants are starving, give them cake. That's not the solution for the ongoing genocide, because Netanyahu is not backtracking on anything. If anything, as you know, as we reported last week, Israel has in fact legislated. They call it symbolic. There's nothing symbolic about it. They legislated annexation of the West Bank. Just like before, they legislated opposition to any form of two-state solution. So the Israelis are going in a completely opposite direction. They're continuing with their genocide and their starvation. And Paris, London, and Washington are doing nothing about it. Add to that, that those same countries, those same Western powers that yesterday were banning Palestinian flags in the streets. Yesterday, here, close to me, they were banning Palestinian flags. Now suddenly they want to recognize the Palestinian state with the flag? Why? Because it is a deflection from ongoing genocide. They need to put a stop to that genocide, recognize that there's a criminal government in Israel. They need to sanction that government and then start speaking about Palestinian rights on the long term within their own state, free of illegal settlers, on the borders of 1967, living in peace side by side with Israel. Other than that, what we are witnessing today is not an opportunity, it's a trap.
Marwan, thanks for that. Marwan Bishara, our senior political analyst, speaking to us there from Paris. Thanks, Marwan.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.